Part 202. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2011. After registering, completing all formalities, and sending your luggage to the dormitory, Feng Qingxiu Niang and the other three were shocked to find that Ma Dazhuang had made the bed before them. Ma Dazhuang was particularly happy to see them. It's fate, sister, little brother Lu Tianmao and I are actually in the same dormitory. It is indeed fate. Feng Qingxiu smiled and then looked at the entire dormitory. The space is not very large. It is a normal dormitory with 8 beds. It is a bit crowded, but it is acceptable. At this time, apart from their 2 families, 2 beds had been made up, but no one was there. They didn't know what they were doing. 2 of the other 4 beds were empty, and the 2 empty ones were piled with luggage and no one was there. The luggage is basically the same, including bedding, clothes and daily necessities. Lu Tianmao scanned the indoor scene, said hello to Ma Dazhuang, and then urged his mother and cousin, put the things on the bed first. It is more important to sign up for brother Tianzi, and we will clean it up when we get back. I'm an adult, so I can just sign up alone, Lu Tianzi said. That won't work. You and your mother will sign up with me, and I will have to sign up with your mother. This is called fairness. Don't say any more, just walk quickly. Zibao picked up the net bag containing wash basins, towels, enamel jars, lunch boxes, etc., and pushed Lu Tianzi goes out. Feng Qingxiu originally studied Spanish, and Lu Tianzi also majored in French, majoring in Spanish. On the way to register, they met Professor Zhang, who had restored his reputation and job. He was as gentle and elegant as he had been many years ago. He was very happy to see Feng Qingxiu. Classmate Qingxiu, we haven't seen each other for a while. Are you signing up with your son or nephew? They are all talented people. Not bad, not bad. Feng Qingxiu often asked him for advice when he was in trouble. Later, he also received Feng Qingxiu's filial piety and knew Feng Qingxiu's family situation very well. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly asked her son and nephew to say hello to the old man, briefly introduced Professor Zhang's status in the education world, and then replied, Zibao was admitted to the law department and has just completed registration. I am accompanying my nephew Lu Tianzi right now. Come and sign up. He is a student in the Spanish department, majoring in French. He will need your guidance in the future. Okay, I wish I could train more talents for the country. Professor Zhang was very happy. Lao Xie's grandson has also been admitted to the Department of Spanish and majored in French. Let your nephew often interact with him in the future. With Feng Qingxiu as a bond, Professor Zhang is not worried that the 2 children will have no way to get to know each other. Professor Xie's grandson? What's his name? Ask Tianzi to write it down so that he won't know which one it is when we meet. But didn't it mean that the child was taken away by Professor Xie's daughter-in-law after their divorce? Professor Xie's son later also. I lost my life. Feng Qingxiu was close to Professor Xie and knew the situation of his family. Wives and children were separated. This situation was too common in that catastrophe. It's so common that no one would find it strange. Professor Zhang sighed, that kid is better than his parents. He only wants to go back to the capital to take the exam and miss his grandfather. It's pitiful. After his mother remarried, he had a hard time at his stepfather's house. He went to the mountains and countryside when he was 14 or 15. The local cotter who jumped in line had no conscience, and the young man suffered a lot. When Lao Xie saw him, he burst into tears. After Lao Xie was rehabilitated, he went to look for him, but unfortunately he was not found in the huge crowd and changed his name. His daughter-in-law, of course, can't find his grandson. By the way, his name is Sci-fi. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2012. Sci-fi, 11 Bao exclaimed. Could it be the CFA he was thinking of? Is he the grandson of Grandpa Xie? He was ragged and thin during the exam, which was very pitiful, and people who knew him said he was a bad guy. Professor Zhang exclaimed, "Have you heard of this name?" 11 Bao touched his head. "I know a CFA, I wonder if it is the CFA you are talking about, Grandpa Zhang. If there is a student from Huihei City who is admitted to the Spanish Department of Capital University, it must be him." Professor Zhang laughed. "There are only a few students from Huihei City who are admitted to Capital University, and only one is called CFA. According to what you said, it must be him. We agreed to meet in the capital. I really didn't expect that CFA was admitted to Capital University like him, which shows CFA's talent and diligence." After leaving Professor Zhang and registering for Lu Tianzi, 11 Bao looked around deliberately, but unfortunately did not meet CFA. Unexpectedly, when she returned to his dormitory with her mother, she found CFA and Professor Xie sitting in the dormitory talking with Ma Dazwang and two unknown classmates. "Lu Tianmao," CFA stood up as soon as he saw him. Feng Qingxiu followed closely and said, "Professor Xie? Why are you here?" "I came to see your son." "It's a bad time." "You were not here when I came." Professor Xie smiled kindly, and then pointed at CFA, who ran over and held 11 Bao's hand with a bright smile. "Come, Qingxiu, let me introduce myself. This is my grandson CFA. We are here to thank 11 Bao for helping him in the exam room." Feng Qingxiu didn't know what was going on, and 11 Bao didn't explain it to her carefully on the way. "Old professor, why are you so polite? Friends should help each other." "You don't know how 11 Bao helped 11, Professor Xie said directly. Feng Qingxiu laughed dryly twice and didn't deny it. Professor Xie sighed, his eyes fell on his grandson. "My grandson has a miserable life, his father died and his mother didn't love him, not to mention the poverty and backwardness of the place where he was sent to work. The key is that the local cadres and residents are very hostile to the educated youth. Intercepting letters and parcels is a common thing, and it's not that they haven't bullied female educated youth. Fortunately, my grandson is a boy and he is young. Even so, it's only been 2 years, but the child has become sick. At least he needs to use good ginseng to strengthen his body and regulate for 5 years before he can return to normal, otherwise it will affect his lifespan." Feng Qingxiu felt very pity when she heard it, and hurriedly said, "Good ginseng? I have a few wild ginsengs, authentic northeast old ginseng, thanks to A Jiang. My comrade found it, and it's better than what's sold outside. I'll send you 2 tomorrow, so you don't need to look for another one." Affecting lifespan is not a trivial matter. It must be due to overwork before the body is fully grown. Professor Xie was overjoyed. "You said that, it concerns the future of my grandson, so I won't be polite with you. I'll go with you to get it later, and prepare the medicine tonight, and start taking it tomorrow. You are so old, don't run around, I'll ask someone to send it to you when I get home." Feng Qingxiu did what he said, and when he got home, he pretended to go back to his room to get ginseng, but in fact he took out 2 old mountain ginsengs from the space, both of which had been processed. He packed them in boxes and asked the guard to send them to Professor Xie. 7 taels is ginseng, and 8 taels is treasure. These 2 are top-grade products above 8 taels. Although they have been processed, Professor Xie weighed them at the first touch. Naturally, he was extremely grateful to Feng Qingxiu in his heart. Such good ginseng is really hard to find. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2013. The enrollment of Lu Tianzi and Zibao did not reduce the popularity and liveliness of the Lu family, because Lu's father left his great-grandsons Lu Chen and Guanxu behind. Lu Tianjun had a heavy workload and was often away from home. Now Zhang Xiaoyu was admitted to a university in the southeast region. Lu's father was worried that they would not be able to take good care of Lu Chen. After discussing with Feng Qingxiu, he announced that he would raise his great-grandson himself. Zhang Xiaoyu and Lu Tianjun, who were worried about how to arrange their son, got what they wanted. After the family leave, the couple paid their bills and left the capital happily. They are a busy couple, and Guancheng and Zhong Wengziu are naturally the same. Guancheng was admitted to the physics department of another university in the capital as he wished, and he was paid to attend school. Although Zhong Wengziu had good grades, he had average luck and was not admitted to the normal college of his choice. Instead, he was transferred to a medical university. Of course, normal education and medicine are majors that the country currently attaches great importance to. After receiving this good news, Lu's father simply left Guansu to play with Lu Chen. The reason was easy to find. The two children were similar in age and kept each other company. In fact, after the children got married and started a business, Feng Qingxiu stopped worrying about them. Isn't this a time when they are in trouble? If you can take care of your studies, work, and children, you are not an ordinary person. Fortunately, Lu Chen and Guansu are no longer babies. They are both cute in their own way. Guansu, in particular, is shyer than other children. There are nannies and orderlies at home, so there is no need to worry about washing and cooking. Older children can also help take care of it, and it is not difficult to take care of. Zhang Yun was very close, and he often picked up his two children to play with him when he had free time. His home often gathered some retired cotters, chatting, and Lu's father and Chen Baoqiu, who were called by him, also got along well. Everything was on track. Apart from work, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu focused on the Eagle Spreading Wings student aid program. Even though it was left to Zibao to make the decision for hundreds of thousands of dollars, they still couldn't help but care. Zibao lived up to expectations and went on in a good manner. He first asked the old leaders of the Ministry of Education to approve the student aid plan, then opened a separate account in the bank for the student aid plan, and kept the money in it. Then he asked several veterans Lu Zhang found for him to go to Huihai City for assistance. Inspection. The student aid program started in Huihai City, and Zhao Anbang was a big help. At least Zibao didn't have to worry about collecting information on poor students in the city, and he didn't have to worry about fake quotas. A person must not forget his roots, and Zibao also pays special attention to the poor students in Wanglu Brigade. Although the Wanglu Brigade is generally wealthy, this is not generally true. In fact, there are still a few poor households, some because they are too lazy to eat, and some are burdened by the old, weak, sick, and disabled, making life very difficult. In this way, as long as their children are smart, they are more eager to escape from the current misery than ordinary poor children. Now that the country attaches great importance to knowledge, everyone knows that the only way out for rural children is to go to school. After graduation, the state will assign jobs and eat commercial food. Zibao is willing to give them this opportunity and will not exclude them from the student aid program just because of their parents and family. As a result, there are 12 primary and secondary students in the entire Wanglu Brigade, 9 of whom are girls. Families who are lazy and those who favor boys over girls feel they have taken advantage, while families burdened by the old, young, sick, and disabled are grateful to Zibao and cling to the only opportunity in front of them. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2014. Everyone knows that knowledge changes destiny. There were 5 to 6 million college entrance examination candidates in 1977, but less than 300,000 candidates were admitted, which shows the low admission rate. The students who were admitted have soared into the sky since then. They have followed the words of Wang Zhenqiu, Father Lu, and others and become the proud students of this era. They are heading towards the prosperous road. The learning atmosphere in major universities cannot be more intense. Feng Qingxiu was walking on the campus and accidentally discovered that there were students studying hard with books in their hands everywhere under the trees in front of the flowers and on the roadside and along the river. "You're really working hard," Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but sigh. Zibao took the bicycle that she pushed and was loaded with things, and said with a smile, "You haven't seen the scene of the teacher giving lectures. The students are so attentive that every class is crowded. In such a learning atmosphere, I don't even want to go home." Feng Qingxiu rolled her eyes at him. "You haven't been home for a month. I thought you forgot which way the door of your house opened." After finally getting some rest, everyone urged her to come see Zibao and give her some delicious tonic. Zibao touched his head and said, "I can't forget to sit north and face south. Isn't this because there are too many things to learn? The return of many old professors has made me understand the vast sea of knowledge even more, and I can't wait to wander in it all the time. And outside, it is more convenient to hear face-to-face reports from several uncles and understand the progress of the student aid program." "How much did you give away?" Feng Qingxiu was curious about this. Zibao replied, "At the beginning, we only gave away more than 10,000 yuan, but we have helped thousands of people enroll in school, including more than 700 girls. Among the more than 700 girls, more than 100 have learned about our after the student aid program. They came to us with their own requests. They were eager to go to school and to change their fate of being looked down upon. Some of them were even willing to sign the papers and pay them back with interest after they had accomplished their studies." At this point, Zibao sighed softly, "Mom, after investigation, we found that although girls are naturally not as physically strong as boys, they are more resilient and stronger than boys at heart. They lack fair treatment. Mom very much hopes that our Zibao will be a leader committed to equality between men and women in the future, equality in all aspects except physical strength." Feng Qingxiu said sincerely, "Do you know? Although my mother married well, I gave birth to lovely children like you, but I don't like people talking about me like this, as if my most worthy of recognition as a lesbian is marrying well and having good children, rather than my independent personality. This will really mislead girls about themselves." Cognition. Therefore, Jojo had no children for several years after his marriage, and she never induced them. Feng Qingyun still focused on her career after marriage, and had no intention of having children for the time being, and she did not intervene to induce the child. Whether Lu Tianjun and Guancheng had a second child, she would not care. "Won't ask further questions." Zibao perked up and remembered, "Mom, your ideas are always so different. However, I agree with you. The value of a lesbian's life is definitely not to marry well and give birth to a son. That is too insulting. Every lesbian who works hard for freedom and equality." Feng Qingxiu smiled gently, her smile full of joy. "What you said is great. Mom hopes you will never change your mind. Know that some people change their minds and personalities over time." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2015. On the way to Zibao's dormitory, Feng Qingxiu reminded her son that women's rights can be protected legally. "Our country's laws are not perfect, but foreign countries already have relatively complete laws and regulations. If you are studying law, you can study in this direction, such as equal property inheritance rights for men and women, women's reproductive rights, and shared property after marriage. Divorce should also be divided equally, etc. We should protect women's interests in the family, especially to affirm that their contribution to the family is no less than that of their husbands who provide the family. Although she does not recognize that the value of women's existence is to marry and have children, she will not deny women's contribution to the family. This is right. I will discuss it with the teachers and try to promote the equal rights that lesbians should enjoy under the Women and Children Protection Law and the Marriage Law. They also have the right to file for divorce and divide their marital property." Zibao said, his eyes getting brighter and brighter, "Mom, you really woke up the dreamer with your words. I have seen too many men completely deny that their wives do laundry, cook, take care of the children and take care of the elderly on the grounds of earning money to support the family. They also say that they eat their own food and drink their own food, and even have bad tempers and even abuse and beat them at every turn. Some even refuse to give their wives a penny after divorce, thinking that the money they earned belongs to themselves. Well, we alone own it. An anti-domestic violence law should also be established. I have seen many gay women living under the violence of their husbands, and they were often beaten until their noses were bruised and their faces were swollen. The approval in Feng Qingxiu's eyes became stronger and stronger, but then she was dumbfounded. Zibao pushed the bicycle he was pushing into her hand, and also gave her the key to the dormitory. "Mom, go to the dormitory by yourself. You know where it is anyway. I have a lot of ideas to tell the teacher now, so I'm busy." Looking at her son's back as he ran away, Feng Qingxiu was not only not angry, but could not help but feel proud. At this moment, she would not have thought that her son would really be what she wanted. Whether he was engaged in the legal profession after graduation or later gave up business and entered politics, he was a public figure committed to gender equality, and was shared by netizens decades later. He is considered to be the big boss who respects women the most, and many women are proud to work with him. Arriving at her son's dormitory, after Feng Qingxiu entered with his roommate's permission, she first smelled the smell of smelly socks and sweat. "It's only April and it's not hot yet." Ma Dazhuang was a little embarrassed. He stretched out his foot and kicked the stinky clothes and socks piled on the floor under the bed. "Classmate Lu Tianmao's bed is clean. Sister Lu, please sit down. My son has loved to be clean since he was a child, and this will not change due to different living environments. Don't you know that?" Feng Qingxiu smiled and did not sit down. Instead, she took out some fruits from her net bag and distributed them to him and two other classmates. The rest and other things were put into Zibao's cabinet. "I will give them to his brothers, send some as you wish." As for the key to Zibao, Ma Dazhuang was entrusted to hand it over to him. Feng Qingxiu heard her son mention that Ma Dazhuang, who had obviously changed his age but still refused to admit it, was a very good character and very generous. His wife rented a house with the children outside the school to accompany them to study, and they made steamed buns and sold them in private. When it was delivered to them, Zibao took advantage of it. Ma Dazhuang patted his chest. "Sister, feel free to go about your work. I will definitely leave it in the hands of classmate Lu Tianmao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2016. After delivering things to Lu Tianzi and Guan Yu respectively, and telling her nephew not to forget to give some to Sci-fi, Feng Qingxiu calculated the time and stopped by to visit the old professors she knew well. They currently live in the faculty and family area of Capital University, which is very convenient. Unexpectedly, guests came to Professor Xia's house. Looking at the two old gentlemen and an old lady present, Feng Qingxiu felt that this old lady looked familiar. "This is Mr. Wang Lan and Wang," Professor Xia pointed to the old lady and introduced. "Those two are Mr. Tang Song and Mr. Lu Tianxingliu, Mr. Wang's husband." "Senior brother, it's better to be famous than to meet." Feng Qingxiu hurriedly said hello to the only senior brother in Guoming sect who had never met. She didn't find it strange at all when Lu Tianxing showed up at Professor Xia's house. They were both Taishan and Baidu in the medical field. Lu Tianxing smiled and said, "Junior sister is someone I have admired for a long time. In these years, senior brother Yuying and I have not been able to take care of master, thanks to you and senior brother Fengakyo." Feng Qingxiu even said it should be. Professor Xia said, "We are all members of our own family. You are welcome. Sit down and talk." After talking for 3 rounds, Feng Qingxiu looked at Wang Lan and felt that he looked familiar and his voice sounded familiar. After racking his brains for a long time, he finally remembered. "Do you still remember me?" Feng Qingxiu asked with a smile and a very respectful attitude. The old lady looked confused. "Should I know you?" Wang Lan asked back. "If I had seen such a handsome boy like you, I would have been deeply impressed, but I can't quite remember it now." Feng Qingxiu smiled and reminded, "That was more than 10 years ago, the person who bought many of your calligraphy and painting scrolls." Hearing this, Wang Lan stood up suddenly and said in a voiceless voice, "Is it you? The person who carried me was your husband." Feng Qingxiu smiled and nodded. "I once said that one day you would like to buy back the things you sold me. I will definitely return the original items. I have been waiting for you, but I didn't expect to meet you at Professor Xie's house." Wang Yan's lips trembled slightly with excitement. "Yes, you said this, but I never dared to have such wishful thinking. At first, you saved me in the black market, and your money and food later saved my life and the old man's life. You bought the exquisite paintings and calligraphy that we spent half our lives collecting, and they were not destroyed by those people who suffered 1,000 blows. Today, times have changed and we have regained respect. How can we say that we bought it? Just go and buy those paintings and calligraphy, don't you kid be ashamed of us." Mr. Tang and Song Dynasty strongly agreed, "The old woman is right. In such a dangerous situation, you took the risk to retain that cultural property, so it should belong to you. We cannot buy it back and pay for it just because our lives are better now. Even if it's 10 or 100 times more money, we still feel unqualified." Feng Qingxiu said, "You two are too polite to say this. Although times have improved, the value of these things has not increased. How can you not be qualified to buy them back at 10 times or 100 times the price? You two, those things in your home, when they come back to you too, can be said to be a good story. The calligraphy and painting complement each other. Besides, don't let me be a person who doesn't keep his word. I will have to be good in the future. Educating the children at home is a promise worth $1,000. A gentleman has things to do and things not to do, not to mention returning those paintings and calligraphy. The benefits of making friends with a few old gentlemen are not necessarily less than taking those paintings and calligraphy. Calligraphy and painting are dead, but people are alive." Feng Qingxiu thought she had made a hugely profitable deal. Insomnia and inability to sleep at night, not enough sleep during the day, little piglets coming in due to colds and coughs, all kinds of worries and discomforts. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2017. Even so, Tang Song and Wang Lan still firmly refused, which shows that they are full of light in their hearts. Professor Xie said, "Since Xiaoxiu mentioned this, you two should be polite. I know that those calligraphy and paintings are your lifelong efforts, and you must remember them very much. I believe that Mr. Wen knows this. Afterwards, I will definitely agree with Xiaoxiu. After all, you are Mr. Wen's best friend." Feng Qingxiu exclaimed, "Mr. Tang Song and Mr. Wang are the teacher's best friends. I didn't even know that. I knew the academic circle was small, but I didn't expect it to be this small. If the current situation continues, will the old gentleman and professors she has made friends with become half of the people in the academic world, literature, art, and medicine?" Professor Xie smiled and said, "The academic world has been turbulent in recent years. A group of like-minded old friends who originally gathered in the capital have all dispersed. They are far apart. No one knows their whereabouts and cannot be contacted. How can I tell you everything in detail? How many friends and relatives do you have?" "I know the senior brothers and sisters under my teacher," Feng Qingxiu retorted unconvinced, "so when you introduce senior brother Tianxing, I know he is my senior brother. I also know who the senior brothers and sisters under teacher Wen are." Wang Lan said in surprise, "Are you a student of Lao Wen? A close disciple?" I know several of his previous students. Wang Mo is also a distant nephew of my mother's family. It was Lao Tang who introduced him to Lao Wen's family, and he became a disciple of Lao Wen. Achievement. Yo, the relationship is closer. Feng Qingxiu said sheepishly, I am the most unprofessional student under the teacher. I usually take in the miscellaneous studies and fail to concentrate on the study of calligraphy and painting. I am really afraid that I will tarnish his great reputation in the future. Now she is ashamed to see her eldest son and daughter's rapid improvement in calligraphy and painting. She feels that she may not be able to become a calligrapher or painter in the future because she has not practiced hard enough and her skills are too low. Art not only relies on talent, but also requires hard work. Seeing Wang Yian's puzzled expression, Professor Xie couldn't help but explain, Xiaoxiu is a doctor and has been practicing medicine for almost 20 years. During this period, he has saved lives and healed the wounded, and has made great contributions to the military and civilians. Although Feng Qingxiu had not studied with him for a long time, he regarded him as a proud student. He would be able to recruit graduate students in the future. He would definitely accept Feng Qingxiu and not let the Spanish department be better than before. Wang Lan was in awe. A good doctor who saves lives and heals the wounded is comparable to a good prime minister of the country. Compared with it, calligraphy and painting that only enhance one's own artistic accomplishment are just a low-end path. Xiaoxiu, you shouldn't belittle yourself. I believe that even Lao Wen can do it so. Hey, you're so honored, Feng Qingxiu touched her nose. Wang Lan laughed. By the way, Lao Xie mentioned your teacher, is he okay now? Those of us who are lower than him in the painting world have come back, so he should be on the list of rehabilitated people. Teacher is very strong. He lives in our hometown with old Mr. Jin Ruoku as his companion. Feng Qingxiu has been paying attention to this matter and has not heard that Wen Ruyu and Jin Ruoku are on the list of the latest batch of people who have been rehabilitated. As for rehabilitation, I guess still have to wait. Wang Lan felt very regretful, we haven't seen him for more than 10 years. I really want to see him sooner. Tang Song's face was full of jealousy and he couldn't help but said, what are you doing seeing that old guy with a big white beard? I can just be in front of you. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2018. Wang Lan said impatiently, you are already 70 or 10 years old, why are you showing off like this? I have told you 100 times, Lao Wen is my elder brother to me, a father, a brother and a famous teacher. Hearing their words and seeing their expressions, Feng Qingxiu blinked, feeling that there was an unknown story inside. So, she glanced at Professor Xie. Although the medical community and the calligraphy and painting community are not in the same small circle, Professor Xie obviously understands the friendship between Wen Ruyu and Wang Lan. Professor Xie actually understood the doubt in Feng Qingxiu's eyes and said funnily, Mr. Wang once married your teacher on the fingertips. Old Tang was jealous all his life. Ah! Marry with your fingertips, are you too surprised? Feng Qingxiu never expected such a past, then the engagement was not fulfilled. Of course I didn't fulfill it. If I had fulfilled it, there would be nothing wrong with old Tang. Wang Lan couldn't help but laugh. When we were young, we were full of passion, resisted the orders of our parents, arranged marriages, and refused to have our breasts tied. Foot binding and other feudal dross that harmed the bodies of female compatriots, the pursuit of freedom and equality. Although my parents died and lived in the Wen family since I was a child, and I lived with Lao Wen day and night to study together, neither of us felt that the other was our soul mate, so we peacefully cancelled the engagement. I didn't expect that you were still a progressive person. Then you met Mr. Tang and Song Dynasty? They married and became a happy couple today, Feng Qingxiu asked enthusiastically. She especially liked to hear the old man talk about the past, which could increase her knowledge. Wang Lan smiled and nodded, of course, I was introduced to old Tang by old Wen. Although we strongly resist arranged marriages, we are very moral and will not fall in love or talk about marriage with others during the duration of the engagement. Feng Qingxiu gave a thumbs up. To be honest, their era was a time of chaos, not only the chaos of war, but also the collision of old and new cultures. There were many characters whose progressive ideas promoted historical development but whose moral flaws made people receive mixed reviews. The reason for his shortcomings is simply his failure to make progress while adhering to the moral bottom line, like Wen Ruyu and Wang Lan. More than half a century has passed. Why are you talking about this? Tang Song quickly changed the subject. Comrade Qingxiu, even if you move out of Laowen, we can't take advantage of you, let alone take advantage of you to avoid Laowen coming back. Queen Jing said that we bully the younger generation. Even if the old guy is good at painting and famous, he is actually very good at spending money. The teacher is very good, you can't say that to him. Feng Qingxiu was unhappy. What a fart, Tang Song blurted out. Lao Xie can testify. I asked him to paint a painting, and he said he would charge according to the size. I said yes, it should be large, but the work he painted almost made me a joke in the industry. What did you draw? Feng Qingxiu was curious. Tang Song hummed twice. I drew a kite with a broken string. The string was drawn straight from the upper left corner to the lower right corner. The kite is still a black spot, and the kite flyer is nowhere to be seen. After hearing this, Feng Qingxiu let out a puff and couldn't help but laugh. She really looks like a teacher. The most disgusting thing is that this old guy charges money according to the size of the drawing paper. Even after decades, Tang and Song still feel itching to mention it. Feng Qingxiu raised her hand and looked at the time. When the teacher returns to Beijing, you can settle the debt with him. I have to leave first. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2019. After leaving Professor Xie's house, the first thing Feng Qingxiu did when she returned home was to put the antique calligraphy and paintings she brought back from outside into the collection room on the third floor. She's been doing this a lot lately. It's actually taking things out of the space and then bringing them back with an excuse. Most of the antiques should be left to the children, and a small part of the cultural relics should probably be donated to the country. They cannot always be stored in space. Therefore, after passing Ming Road, there are more and more things on the third floor. In particular, Lu's father did not stop collecting. He and Cheng Baoqiu often appeared near Liu Lichang and other flea markets with their children. The Chinni inkstone that Feng Qingxiu now uses to practice calligraphy was brought back to her by Lu's father. It was a tribute from the early Qing dynasty, but it has Qianlong seal on the bottom, so it was obviously something Qianlong used. Qianlong had no other hobbies. First, he composed poems. He composed more than 40,000 poems during his lifetime, none of which has been passed down through the ages. Second, he loved collecting. He stamped his seal on the calligraphy and paintings of famous people, which were densely packed and completely complete. The beauty of white space is lost. Among the calligraphy and paintings Wang Lan sold to Feng Qingxiu was an ancient painting that had been collected and admired by Qianlong. It was a meticulous painting of flowers and birds, with a large seal on the bird's butt. There is also a piece of calligraphy with more than a dozen cinnabar red seals of Qianlong printed on it, large and small, which can make people suffer from trypophobia. When Feng Qingxiu sent it to Tang Song and Wang Lan couldn't help but said, "When I received this calligraphy, old Tang almost scolded Qianlong to death, saying that this guy is a loser. Compared with his father, he is no good. There is no aesthetic point of view. Look, there is no one who just stamps randomly regardless of the layout of calligraphy and painting, but he can do it." Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, the styles of Yongzhen's porcelain and Qianlong's are also completely different. The former has a sparse layout and elegant colors, while the latter is full of flowers and dense and gorgeous. They are both celestial sphere bottles. The one from the Yongzheng period looks very comfortable, but the one from the Qianlong period is dazzling. Tang Song put down the calligraphy and painting he was reading and said smoothly, "I don't like Qianlong's stuff no matter what." Feng Qingxiu laughed until her stomach ached, and said with evil intentions, "Don't underestimate me, maybe in a few decades, Qianlong's calligraphy, painting, and porcelain will be worth hundreds of millions, she can testify." Tang Song didn't believe it. On that level, hundreds of millions? You're kidding. How about we make a bet? When Tang Song asked what the bet was about, Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "I won. You and Mr. Wang will paint a picture for me together." She had already remembered that Wang Lan and Tang Song were a famous couple in the painting world. They were good at meticulous figures and carnival paintings. Although they were not as famous as Wen Ruyu, their joint works were later auctioned for tens of millions. Tang and Song agreed, "Let's finish the painting first and leave it to future generations. If we lose, we will give the painting to you. They are old and don't think they will survive for decades." Only then did Feng Qingxiu pay attention to the age of the two elders, and said with a smile, "Don't say that, I hope that you two elders will live to be more than 100 years old. Let's see who loses and wins seriously. No wonder Lao Xia likes you, you have such a sweet mouth." After Wang Lan finished speaking, she stuffed the two small boxes that Feng Qingxiu had brought with the calligraphy and painting back into her hands. "Calligraphy and painting are our lifeblood, you are so kind to give them to us. Come on, we will accept it with shame. These two things are given to you. It is difficult for you to preserve the calligraphy and painting so well for more than 10 years without any change." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2020. Feng Qingxiu once opened two small boxes and knew that they contained some valuable jewelry. The styles were relatively old. Although valuable, they are not as good as her own collection. So Wang Lan insisted on giving it, and she accepted it calmly. Seeing her attitude, a smile appeared on Wang Yan's wrinkled face. "These are the dowry prepared by the Wen family for me, and I will always keep them as a souvenir. Lao Wen has relied on your family to live a peaceful life these years. One day, the first thing he will do when he returns to Beijing is to contact you. When he comes back, don't forget to inform us to get together with him. Anyway, you now know our home address. Don't worry, this is a courtyard house, and in a few decades it will have the word sky-high price on it." After listening to Feng Qingxiu's advice to the couple to keep the courtyard house until its value increases, and never sell it, Tang Song couldn't help but said, "This shabby courtyard house has less than 10 rooms in total, and the main room only has 3 rooms. It has been destroyed several times in recent years. The household wasted so much, how could it be sold for as high a price as Qianlong's calligraphy and painting porcelain when it comes to your mouth? The yard is really dilapidated now. They spent more than 300 yuan to buy it. It was small and exquisite, with a pomegranate tree and a goldfish tank. Now they are gone. The yard is full of randomly built sheds, stoves, and toilets. A mess." Feng Qingxiu chuckled, "How about we make another bet? Although the yard is in a bad condition, if it is in a good location, and if it is properly repaired, it will be worth more than tens of millions in the future. I won't bet with you anymore." Tang Song waved his hands repeatedly. "You girl have an evil spirit in you, as if you are confident. Anyone who bets with you must have never won." Feng Qingxiu laughed and said goodbye. "You took 200 yuan and food stamps from me, why didn't you mention it?" After Feng Qingxiu left, Tang Song asked the doubts in his heart, "Although we don't have a job, we will not pay back wages, but the state also gave her 9,000 yuan as compensation for the loss of property, so I thought you would give her more money." Wang Lan cherished the lost collection and said casually, Do you think she looks like someone who is short of money? Stop insulting people with money. They were not in short supply 10 years ago, and they are not in short supply now. I don't have these things. I thought about taking it back, but I just thought it would be better to have it in the hands of others than to be damaged. She gave it to me out of kindness, so we can keep it well and give it to her 100 years later. Anyway, this fate is over for you and me. There are no descendants, and the 2 students we accepted have long since severed ties with us. They actually gave birth to children, 4 in total, but unfortunately they died without raising them. Tang Song agreed, this is a good idea. They saved us, and we can't let them suffer. Anyway, at our age, we don't have many years to live. Feng Qingxiu didn't know the couple's plan, so she went home again with a batch of books, calligraphy, and paintings, and found that the house was very lively. Teacher, when did you and Mr. Jin arrive? Feng Qingxiu was surprised. Just now at Wang Yian's house. She said that when Ruyu didn't know when he would return to Beijing, but when he got home, he saw the old man at first sight. Both he and Jin Ruoka were wearing old Chinese tunic suits that had been washed white, their beards and eyebrows were white, and their mental state was as before. When Ruyu laughed heartily, we sat down half an hour earlier than you. Lao Jin said he would give you a surprise, and it was indeed a surprise to see you. I thought this was a great idea. Various reactions have come up in the past few days. I suffer from insomnia at night and drowsiness during the day. The test results are not very good. After all, I am 30 years old and need to have miscarriage. The update is not stable. Sorry, I will type well today and update stably. Chapter by chapter.